Hello, I'm John Paul and I'm here at Rimmer Brothers today to change a right hand front window regulator on the 2001 Discovery 2. First job is to take the door card off. So there's one little screw behind the door handle opener, so there's a screw out there and the little cap will come out. Two screws in the handle, two screws in the luggage, and then we'll be able to prise the door card forward. We've taken the relevant screws out now. Now if you just pull the door catch forward, and then you just have to feed the plastic cover from around the handle, so that one's out of the way. Now they've got plastic clips on the inside of these as well that they fix to the door card and they push into the door. So we've got a little tool here that a little fork, you can put it behind the little plastic clip, which I'll just take one out now just to show you what one looks like. And that's all it is. It's just a little plastic clip that goes into the door, and then the little attachment there goes into the door card. So you just need to push your fork behind there and prise it forward. I mean, you can just grab hold of the door card and pull it forward. And 9 times out of 10, these little plastic clips will break. I mean, they've been in quite a long time, so it's a fair chance you're going to need to buy some new one of these before you refit the card. As you pull the card forward, you just have to make sure that you lift it off the lock unlock button. Here's the little plastic clips I was talking about, and then there's just a speaker wire. It's just a pull off plug, no clips on that, and then that's the card out of the way. Just going to use a Phillips screwdriver just to take this Phillips screw out for the plastic guard underneath. Then there's two 8mm spanner size bolts at one at each end of the runner, which bolt the window runner to the actual window regulator. So if you just get your little socket, and you have to slacken these two off, because you will be able to just slide the regulator to one side, because you'll see that the holes are bigger to take the bolts. You don't actually have to take the bolts out. Then you'll just be able to push the window regulator forward, and then we can push the window up out of the way, so then we can concentrate just on the regulator. We've just pushed the window to the top where it would sit normally, and we've just put some tape over the top of the frame just to hold the window out of the way. Just make sure you use some decent tape that's going to stay stuck to your window. So we've just used some insulation tape here, but you could use whatever you've got. Just make sure it's nice and secure before you start working down here. We're going to take two more 8mm spanner size bolts out here, and these are the ones that just hold onto the stabilizer bar that bolts on the back of the door. Then there's four 8mm spanner size bolts here. Now these hold the window regulator, the part that the motor bolts to. You only have to take two of them out fully. The other two you have to slacken off, and you'll see they've got elongated holes again. So once you've got the two main ones out and they're slackened off, you'll be able to push it forward and go through the holes. So when you're reassembling it, you can just got a bit of a reference point to get it locked into place in the right position. You'll be able to see the wire that goes down to the motor here, so if you just pull it towards you until you find the plug, unplug it, and then you just drop the window regulator down. Just watch your fingers, because they are a bit of a finger trappy machine. So take it forward and you just feed it through the hole in the door, pull the wire down, and that's the window regulator off now. Here's the motor, which doesn't come with the regulator, so we'll have to 3 Torque screw bolts. We'll have to take those out, and then we'll refit the motor in the new regulator. I've fitted the new motor to the window regulator. I've tried to put the window regulator in exactly the same position as the old one was, so it makes it easier to refit. So there's the 3 bolts that we've taken out, and put the old motor into the new regulator and bolted it back together. We've also just started loosely the 2 bolts that are the located ones that go in the elongated holes, so they'll be ready to fit. And then it's a case of feeding it back into the door and then locating these 2 bolts. Now it's just a case of feeding the regulator back into the door. Get it. And then refitting it, so the elongated holes, just make sure your wire goes in the right position so that you can re-plug it in. And then you'll just have to find your bolt holes at the wrong angle here, so just forgive me for this. And that goes in there. So then there's your bolt holes back into the elongated holes, so they're located, and then we can move on to the refitting the other bits. So that's all 4 bolts in the front of the main regulator bracket there now. They're all just done in loosely, so we'll start all the bolts that are all nice and loose, and then we'll tighten them up right at the end. And the stabilising bracket at the, they go to the door here, there's 2 bolts there, one there and one a bit further down, so you just have to fiddle about with that, get it lined up, and then start that bolt as well. And then what we'll do, we'll make sure that's all okay, tighten those ones up, and then we'll bring the window back down and bolt it back to the regulator. Now we'll just re-plug in the wire for the motor, put it back into its clip, and we'll just switch on the ignition. Just don't send it all the way up and down, but just make sure that the regulator does actually work okay. That's fine. And then just get it back into the position where we were before, so when we lower the window, we can clearly see the bolts that we can replace. I've untaped the window and I've lowered the window down, so I'm just lowering it into the elongated holes on the regulator, clip in there, look, and just slide the regulator along, tighten them 2 bolts back up, put the plastic guide underneath again through that one little hole there, and then we can see if it works. When fitting this plastic guard, there is just a little lip behind it that sits in between the window regulator and the window runner. So you just might have to get a little screwdriver just to lift up, make sure you get a gap so that sits nicely in there. If it doesn't, it will catch on the door. So once that's in, tighten up your 2 bolts and that's all done. Just spray it with a bit of lube, you know, some WD-40 or a bit of oil, or even put some grease in the runners just to make sure it stays nice and free. And then once that's all done, it's time, just turn on the ignition, send the window all the way up, all the way down. That's all good. That's fine, then just recheck your bolts, make sure everything's tight, and then we can refit the door card. Refitting the door card is just the reverse when we're taking it off, so just re-plug in your speaker wire, and then just make sure your unlock switch goes through its little hole, and then you might just have to get behind just so you can see where the little plastic lugs locate. But as soon as they are in, just tap it all the way around, clips it into place, and then replace your screws, put your cap back on around your door handle and replace that screw, and the 2 screws in the bottom, and then that's it. So that's the card back on, the screws back in, so that's all, that job's all done. We've just got some glass cleaner and just wiped some mucky paw prints off the windows. Everything works fine, the speaker works fine, the window goes up and down okay. So that's it, we're all finished.